the two men who Jesus visited while he was on the road to Emmaus with them, after Jesus came in their house and they recognized who he was, it says the two men ran all the way back to tell the disciples they had seen Jesus. And they just couldn't wait. They were looking around in Jerusalem and they found him in a room. And so they went in the room and knock, knock, knock. And remember how excited they were. We've seen him. We've seen Jesus. And at first the disciples didn't believe him totally. But they said, we saw him. With our own eyes we saw him. And then as they were talking, in through the door, and I mean through the door, comes Jesus. And they were astonished. And when Jesus came in, they thought he was a spirit. Maybe they ate some bad food or something, or drank something wrong or something. But Jesus said, no, I'm here, touch me, feel me. Does a spirit have flesh and bones? He says, it's really me, I'm here. And they all just couldn't believe it, but they were so filled with joy. My translation is, hot dog, he did it. And they were filled with joy. Well, then he told them, he said, but you can't keep this to yourself anymore, because now I want you guys to spread out and go tell the world as far as you can go. Tell them about me, about my salvation, my death, my resurrection. Tell them the gospel. Tell them the good news about new life in Jesus Christ, because I rose from the dead, they will also. And Paul says it so beautifully in his letter to the Romans, Romans 8:11. Paul says, the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is the same Spirit that will also raise us from the dead. He says, the same Spirit that raised Jesus will also raise our mortal bodies from the dead. Wow! And I'll put the reference under there in Romans. He has a lot to say about the resurrection of the dead. But because he lives, we shall live also. Well, then 8 days later, a lot of people don't know this, 8 days later the disciples met again. And this time Thomas was with them. He wasn't with them the first time. This time Thomas was with them, and they were all excited, and they said, we saw Jesus, he was right here. We touched him and everything. He's alive, Thomas. And Thomas said, I don't believe that. He said, I won't believe it unless I can put my fingers in the nail prints in his hands, or his hands, wherever, someplace in his hands there, and that I can see the wound in his side from that spear. Remember, they stabbed him, and they said, okay, you doubting thing, you. Well, that's when Jesus came again. And Thomas was astonished. He looked at him. It is you. I said I wouldn't believe it though until I touched your nail prints in your side. And Jesus said, okay, Thomas, look at my hands. And sure enough, there were the scars, probably the scabs yet. It wasn't that long after, where they had nailed him to the cross. And Jesus pulled up his shirt and he said, okay, Thomas, look here, look on my side. And there's where the spear went in. See that? And Thomas, he was astonished. And Jesus said, yes, I was bruised and wounded for you. Sin got every whiplash it deserved for you. And Thomas got on his knees and he said, oh my Lord and my God. And Thomas believed after that. So many people saw Jesus. Okay, I'm going to leave it off there so I don't get bawled out for my lengthy things. Nobody's bawling me out really except Facebook and T-Mobile, but I'm getting away with a few things here. Okay, I'll see you next time. Jesus is alive.